Well, this is part 2 of my cancer talk, and concerning where the money that we talked about in part 1 is actually being spent on which kinds of cancer and which parts of the world are doing the funding of research. And just as in part 1 I found it a bit of a bramble bush trying to work out from various sources, and there are quite a few different ones, where the incidence and mortality figures were. And in this part I'm trying to find out where that money is being spent, and which parts of the world and what kind of research is being carried on. And it is actually quite a complicated business. But to help us, I think the best start is with IARC's Globoscan figures. And they do give you a global picture of the places where cancer is occurring and at what rate it's occurring. But to get to the figures of what money is being spent, we have to really start looking at individual areas of the world. So to look at the global picture in terms of areas, I thought the best way would be to take global cancer incidence and mortality to see where that is. And that's normally being divided into 5 different areas by Globoscan, and they are Africa, the Americas, Oceania, Asia and Europe. And if you look at that, what you can glean from that is that the less developed countries have lower cancer rates than the more developed countries. And that is suggesting that lifestyle plays a big part in cancer creation. But that's not really what this part's about. This part's more about what is being spent on cancer research. And there's no doubt that not only is America the largest spender of money on cancer research, but their figures make the UK figures pale into comparison. In the UK, something like Cancer Research UK's projects in 2023-24, they spent £19 million on lung cancer. Now you compare that with the US, and in the United States, the figures are much higher. Cancer Society gives us quite good figures and quite up to date on specific areas of research. And in the United States, according to ACS, the most researched area is not lung cancer, which is number 2, but breast cancer. And the figures that they give are, for specific projects, are 78 million for breast cancer research, 37.8 million for lung cancer research, 31.8 for colon cancer, 19.8 million for leukemia, 18.5 for prostate cancer, and then melanoma, 18.1, and so go on. So these figures, if you add them all up, come to about $28 billion. And brain cancer, 16.0, ovarian cancer, 15.3, pancreatic cancer, 15.0, and liver cancer, $14.5 million. So if you add those all up, it's far higher than the UK spend. Well, as for the UK, Cancer Research UK gives their project figures for 2023-24, and they are like this: lung cancer 19 million, colorectal cancer 19 million, breast cancer 18 million, leukemia 16 million, brain cancer 12 million, pancreatic cancer 9 million, prostate cancer 8 million, ovarian cancer 6 million, and esophageal cancer 6 million. So those are the figures for UK, taken by, spent by Cancer Research UK. Now, of course, they're not the only people spending money on cancer, but they are very representative of them. And the total for their spend on cancer research in 23-24 was 164 million. And that included 19.9 million for children, for cancer in children less than 24 years old. Well, that's more or less the figures by region and by type. But the question next is, of course, what kind of treatments are they doing, researching? And one has to confess that these are all related to three major interventions, as we know: surgery, chemotherapy and radiotherapy. Now, you might ask, well, why is that? Because cancer research has two elements to it. It's got what we call discovery research, where we try to find out new things about the causes, and translational research, which is trying to find out how you can convert those causes into clinical practice. So there's that element, but the other issue is, and a lot of money is being spent on, how to get earlier, because what people talk about is the survival rate after 5 years after diagnosis, or 10 years after diagnosis. So it stands to reason that the earlier you can diagnose a cancer, the more chance the statistic emerging for 5-year survival will be better, and for 10-year survival too. But what you notice is that, for example, in breast cancer, whereas the survival rate for breast cancer, taking all stages into account, 1 to 4, the average for 5-year survival is 85%, whereas the average for 10-year survival is only 75%. So the earlier you can diagnose the problem, the better chances are that the survival rate will look better in the statistics. And that's why so much work is being done on early diagnosis, and new discoveries are being made about how quickly you can diagnose a cancer type from, let's say, blood or some biomarker which will help you get there. And I think, in a way, one can't deny that's a good idea, but it would be far better to look at new forms of therapy and do research on those when the evidence in the literature supports further research. And I don't see that happening so much. But I will talk about that in part 3. Meanwhile, I hope I've just given you a taste of what the money, the enormous amount of money around the world which is raised for cancer research, or is given to cancer research, how that's being spent and in which directions.